And when this goes live, then people get like a notification that we went live. So it'll just take another second and then we'll be live.
Okay.
Live, then people get like a okay, we're live. That we went live. So it'll just take another second and then we'll be live. Okay, we are live on Facebook. Excellent. Welcome everyone. I'm Rena Yudkowsky. I'm memory coach and geriatric social worker. Most of you know me in this group. And I am thrilled to have with us today Ilana Sinclair, who's also in Israel. And Ilana is going to tell you about what she does. Before we do that, please, if you're joining us live, type in the comments live and tell us where you're from. And if you're watching the replay, do hashtag replay so we know that you watched this. So this is going to be fun and valuable information for you. And so yeah, just if you're joining us a minute late, type where you're from. And if you have any questions, Ilana, tell us a little bit about how you got into this originally, like where did it come from?
Sure. Well, I'm also a social worker by training, and I've always loved working with older adults. So that's basically why I decided to become a social worker. And then when the pandemic hit, I started worrying that we didn't know how quickly people might get sick and pass away. And I actually sat up the first night that we were in lockdown and worried to my husband about people getting sick and passing away and their children not knowing their stories. And I said to my husband, somebody needs to really start capturing people's stories before it's too late. And then it occurred to me, why not me? Why shouldn't I do that? Because I was working as a marketing director, writing for other organizations. And so I have the skills of my social work background and my writing background. And I thought I can combine them and actually help people capture their own stories. And that's what I've been doing now for almost 3 years.
Wow. So first of all, I didn't realize that was an outgrowth of the pandemic. I thought you were doing this before. So that's interesting. And also, so I really like the way you put together all your talents. That's amazing.
I have to say, it's such a gift. I feel so lucky to be able to do this work because it's really a passion for me. It's a passion project. I love hearing people's stories. I love helping them capture their stories. And I love hearing afterwards how much it means to them and how much it means to their children and grandchildren. So the whole project from beginning to end is really a meaningful one. And it's one that brings me a lot of joy. So
tell us exactly what you do. Tell us how it works. How does the process go? What do you do?
Sure.
How do you do it? Who do you work with? Tell us all about that.
Okay. So when a client comes to me, first we sit down together, usually over Zoom, and we discuss what their goals are for the project. And then we figure out how many hours approximately we think of interviews it will take to capture their story. Some people, I would say 3 hours is sufficient, which doesn't sound like a lot, but it really can be sufficient. Some people need more. And so we discuss it and then we make a plan. Either I do the interviews or I have 3 other writers working with me and one of them can do it. They have many years of writing experience. So it's a great team. And after that, after we conduct the interviews, then we, the writers, get to work. We write their story in their own words, but making it as compelling and meaningful as possible. Then once the story's written, it goes back to the client for their approval. And after they approve it, we turn it into a book. So we take all of their photos from throughout their life and it goes to a graphic designer who creates a beautiful book out of it. And then once they've approved that, we send it to print. So the book is not a book that we sell. It's a book just for them, for their private family, and they can order as many copies as they want. But the idea is that their story should live on, should be for them, but also for their children and grandchildren and future generations, so that people will know who they were, what their values were, what they experienced, why they made the decisions that they made, and really capture who they are in their own words.
Beautiful. So you can work with people all over the world if you're doing Zoom, right?
That's right. Exactly. I have clients all over the world and it really works beautifully. I think that's a gift from the pandemic, is that people got used to communicating over Zoom, and it's actually a safer way when you're worried about exposure, that you can work with a writer without having anybody come into your home. You're not exposed to anything, and you don't have to worry about that. I know a lot of people are concerned about leaving their homes, being around other people who might get them sick. So this way it's completely safe, but it's still very intimate. So it's a perfect way to do it. Yeah.
And do you work with people with dementia?
So we do, usually in the earlier stages of dementia. But it becomes more urgent when it becomes clear that somebody has dementia to get down as many of their memories as possible. So I've had several clients with dementia who sometimes they do repeat stories, but we can find ways to make it work. And oftentimes when I'm working with a client with dementia, I'll also interview maybe their children or their spouse to fill in some of the blanks. So we make sure that the story is as complete as possible.
And what does this do for people? Like, what is the feedback you get? Like, first of all, what do people enjoy it? Do they enjoy the process? I would imagine the process is great. Forget the beautiful book, and then I think the process is valuable.
The process is so valuable. I think, first of all, revisiting memories that you might not have thought about for a very long time can bring a lot of joy. It really can. When you're thinking parents, when the grandchildren really understand their grandparents as real people who, who were their age at one point, and to understand what life was like for them. So there are so many benefits. I actually have a client who sent me a quote recently that was so beautiful. She wrote that she felt elated after sharing what she had been carrying around most of her life, that it was cathartic for her. So I think a lot of people have stories that they want to share, and they feel almost like it's a burden that they haven't yet told their story. And I do hear from many clients that they feel a sense of peace of mind once it's down, once they know that their story will live on and it won't be lost. So
yeah, reminiscence is very powerful for many reasons. And then I would think even, so there's a process of doing it, which is amazing. Like going through those memories. I'm sure there's painful ones. I'm sure there's joyous ones. I'm sure there's a whole mix of emotions that come up when people share their stories, their life stories, and wisdom that comes with it. And then they get the book, and I'm sure that then that's also an opportunity for them to relive it, reshare it with their grandchildren. They can say, look, and they retell their story and reshare with the pictures. And I would imagine that for someone with dementia, it's very helpful in cueing their memory.
Absolutely. Exactly. And I think sometimes seeing the photos that accompany the stories also bring back memories. So if you have dementia, but you see a picture of your mother, I do think that for many people with memory loss, certain way back memories are still there, are still present. And so this can be a way to connect with somebody with dementia also, and to allow their children and grandchildren to find a connection point, something that they can talk about together.
Yeah, beautiful. And I mean, I would imagine that, most older people have lots and lots of stories, and I don't know, how many pages are these books? What's the average?
I'd say they range from 50 to 100 pages, but that includes photos.
Yeah.
But yeah, they're meant to be complete as possible. So they're not just stories of, childhood stories or how I met my spouse. It's all of that. Plus, why did I choose this career, or what was it like to become a parent? And then I always make sure at the end to include messages. So what does that person want their children or grandchildren or future generations to know? What's the most important thing they want them to know? What are their values that they are hoping to pass down? And this is their opportunity to get all of that down as well. So it's really
their legacy. It's really their legacy.
It is a legacy. It is. This morning, a headline from NPR News passed on my Facebook, and the headline was, the first step to passing on wealth is deciding what's important to you. And I thought that was so telling, because what is more valuable to us than our stories and our values, right? But we spend so much time thinking about, do we have a durable power of attorney? Do we have an estate plan, right? But this should be as much a part of your estate planning as anything else, because this is who you are, and this is what you want to pass on.
Sure. So, do you have one that you can show us? Do you have a sample?
I don't have it right here. I do have it right downstairs.
That's okay.
I'm sorry, I meant to grab it.
That's okay. I was curious what it looked like. And I'm curious, do people have to be very techie in order to?
No, not at all. Nobody needs to have any technology except for using Zoom. That is the technology. But besides that, we meet over Zoom, and then the writers write the story, and we send it back to the client. So if the client knows how to use me think. I've heard from the clients, I've heard from their spouses, and I've heard from their children, all of them, that they're so grateful that they've done this, that it means so much to them, and also that it has brought them peace of mind that they did it. They're so relieved and so grateful that they did it. Actually, I have a quote I can read to you that one client wrote to me. She said, "For as long as I can remember, I've been wanting to write this book. I have so much to share about my parents' stories, where they came from, what they lost, and everything that they stood for. And I've always meant to get it all down on paper. I just turned 80, and I realized now is the time. I want my children and grandchildren to know how exceptional my parents were and how their values and principles have shaped us as a family."
Wow. Wow.
So it really is meaningful to them.
Yeah, really meaningful. Beautiful. So I have two questions. One is, have you ever worked with Holocaust survivors?
I have actually. So this woman is the child of Holocaust survivors, but she's 80. She had an unusual story in that her parents give a few tips if any of your your members are interested in writing their own life stories. I encourage everybody to do it. Of course, if you feel it's something you won't do on your own, go to a professional memoir writer like me. But it's something that you can do on your own if you have the time and you think you're going to be able to devote that time to do it. I would, if you're writing your own story, I would start at the beginning. Where did you grow up? What did your parents do for a living? What did you want to be when you grow up? Simple questions like that, and then take it from there. If you are writing somebody else's story, I would pace yourself because it can be, a lot. So maybe try for 10 minutes at a time to interview your loved one with some simple questions and, see where they go. But over time, you can stitch together something that's really beautiful and really important. So just start where you can. And, you can always try to record it, which is also a very beautiful way of capturing somebody. You get to hear their voice. You get their mannerisms. But even just sitting down across a cup of coffee and asking some simple questions each time you're together can really add up. So I just encourage everybody to do that.
And if people do that, but then don't really know how to go after that, they could just send that to you and you would work with that, right?
Sure. Of course. You can always, I'm always here to help. And that's really my goal, is to get everybody to write down their stories. Right. No matter which way you need to do it. If you're able to write it yourself, great. If you need help, great. But just do it. I implore everybody to please, if you have older loved ones still around, now is the time. Do not wait.
Sure. And can family members buy this as a gift for their parents or grandparents?
It's a beautiful gift. So I would say at least half of our clients come as either birthday or anniversary gifts.
Nice.
I have some clients right now that are doing it as a surprise to their children and grandchildren.
That's so nice.
The family is gathering for their anniversary and they're going to present a copy to each person.
Wow.
I know. It's a beautiful gift. It's a gift to yourself and it's a gift to your future generations.
Yeah. Wow. Do you work in other languages besides English?
So right now we're just working in English, but
Okay.
I am open to other, if I do come across clients who need another language, I'm open to working on that, to trying, because my goal again is to help everybody.
Right.
So I just need to make sure that the writers are of, certain standard, but yes, I would like to.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah.
And how can people reach you? If they want to know more about it or they want to get in touch with you, how can they reach you?
Sure. So, okay, you can always visit the website, which is www.captureyourstory.org.
Okay. So, and we put that into this video. Well, after we finish, we'll go in and put that under in the comments so that people will have it. And what else? You're also on Facebook. And
I'm on Facebook. Capture Your Story has its own Facebook page, which you can find, and you can message me through that if you would like. So any of those ways works.
Are you also on Instagram?
I am on Instagram. Capture Your Story. I think it's _life stories.
Okay, amazing. I am just going back into my group to see if anyone has any comments or questions. If you're joining us live, please put any comments or questions in the chat. I'm going to check it now. 1 second. We have a couple. We have 4 people on live with us. Tell us where you're from. Oh, Linda's on. Linda said, "What is the cost of writing your memories?" Do you want to share that with us?
So it depends on, again, each person and how long you think your story would be. It really requires just one quick Zoom call between us so I can understand what your needs are and then give you a quote. I hate to give a quote and then it would turn out not to be correct because I don't have the full picture.
Okay. And right, I'm sure some are more work than others, right? Because some are going to be longer, some are going to be, I mean,
Exactly.
I'm sure some people take much more than 3 hours. You said 3 hours before, but I'm sure some
that's
people
the minimum. And I also do couples books. So
I was going to ask you about that. Tell us about that.
So I do, and that's really a sweet way to do it. What I do is I interview each person, each partner separately, because they each have their own life, before they met. And so they each will tell their own life story. And then once we get to the point where they met each other, I do like to ask them questions about the other one, but they continue to tell their own story. So each one will tell their own story, and then they kind of get woven together, as the marriage, as they get married and as their parents and are reflecting on their lives together. And we do ask some questions about, how did you know he or she was the one? What's something you admire about that person? And it can be very beautiful to hear them speaking about
that. I was thinking about that. I was going to ask you about that. I think that's also a beautiful project because, again, the process of them doing it together is a very special process.
It is. It really is. And I think they couldn't.
Right.
So it's very beautiful to have them speak about what the kind of partner and parent their spouse was.
Yeah. We have another question here. Can the book be saved digitally to add to these ancestry or family search profile?
We can send a digital copy, absolutely. So we can send a digital copy with just the text, and then we can send a digital copy of the entire book that has the photos laid out. So yes.
Nice. Okay. Because I was thinking, can you add to it? Like if there are more grandchildren or great-grandchildren born and they want their pictures in there, can you add to it?
Well, that might be a bit different. Like you could come back to me and we could always, the book will never be gone. We'll always save it and we can always change it or expand it if we wanted to. But I don't think that's something that the client could do on their own. It's made by a graphic designer with special software, Adobe InDesign, which even for me is a little bit complicated.
Yeah, that's a graphic design program.
Exactly.
Okay, amazing. If there are any other questions, feel free to put them in the chat. This is, Ilana, this is really a special idea, a special project. If anyone listening knows anyone that would be interested in doing such a project, please be in touch with Ilana. Ilana, maybe we should put your website and your email under this video in the comments after.
Perfect. That would be wonderful.
The replay will be in the group. We have actually 6 people on watching with us.
Okay,
so this is special. I really see the value in this. I know that older people love to talk about their lives and their stories, and it's important to preserve it. Like it means a lot to people to know that there's something to pass on to their next generation. And pictures, what's
Exactly.
better than pictures? You know, most people have pictures all over the place. Like the older people have albums, you know, maybe a little bit younger have stuff on the computer, but it's usually a mess. And it's usually, we don't print out pictures anymore at all. I mean, I don't know about you, I don't print out pictures.
Right.
And I also don't really have the time or patience to sit and make photo books. You know, but so you're really doing a lot of good work for an older person in terms of reminiscence, in terms of legacy. I think it's a beautiful project.
Thank you so much. I completely agree. And I think in terms of memory work, it can be really valuable. It can be really valuable in terms of keeping those memories alive, bringing back old memories that have been forgotten. And you're right. I mean, for the younger generations, it's kind of inaccessible. Like they wouldn't know if they're sifting through photos, who these people are, what they're looking at. So this is a way to, you know, ensure that future generations will know what happened, will know your stories, will know your values, and will know who they come from. It helps them put their own lives in perspective.
Absolutely.
Context.
And oftentimes I find that when the families get bigger, the grandchildren don't do it. They don't take the time to interview the grandparents. I know sometimes we go to my parents and say, now remind me of the cousins. Who are the cousins on my grandparents' side? Because we don't, you know, we didn't, let's say my grandparents' siblings, we didn't really meet them. We didn't really know them. So one time my husband sat with a pen and paper and interviewed my grandmother to get all the names of all the, you know, her siblings and cousins and aunts and uncles, whatever. So it's really important. It's important. And it's a special project.
Important. Is that the thing that he wrote down? Is that accessible to other people now?
So we really just have it as notes. We need to make it accessible to the rest of the family. We haven't. So
exactly.
And that grandmother passed away. She lived to be 95 and then she passed away.
So thank goodness you got that down when you did. Exactly. That's exactly my point, which is we sometimes feel we have all the time in the world and then things happen. And we, you know, that regret is the worst thing to live with. It's so painful and we can never get that information back. So, you know, I just want to say it should be as much a part of your estate planning as managing your retirement fund, and you'll get a much bigger return on your investment.
Yeah, I agree. Well, thank you for doing this. And please, anyone who's watching, feel free to be in touch with Ilana. We'll put her information in the comments under the video. And thank you for sharing this with us today.
Oh, it's my pleasure. Thank you so much for having me and for, you know, allowing all of your members to get to hear about Capture Your Story. I really appreciate it.
Yeah, thank you so much. I'm going to stop the live.